The Outer Worlds is one of the few survivors of Xbox's Great Purge of 2025, that dark era when John Xbox, mid-Xanax overdose, decided to cancel half of its upcoming exclusive lineup because funny. Driven mad after years of people calling the first game mid-New Vegas, the escaped lunatics at Obsidian finally snapped. In a fever dream of pure spite, they decided to literally copy the plot structure of New Vegas word for word in this game. First half, you're a stupid fucking asshole who's being brought back to life and now has to go on a revenge trip against someone who wronged you. Second half, you somehow stumble your way into a galaxy-wide power struggle between 10 factions and have to decide the fate of the entire star system. Sound familiar? But even though the plot structure is basically identical, The Outer Worlds 2 still managed to feel distinct in how it delivers it. As far as I know, it is the only game where you can push an entire community into the meat grinder of a mega corporation, all in exchange for a cool hat. So 10 out of 10. The absurd, over-exaggerated tone from the first game makes a return, but this time with some much-needed restraint. The first Outer Worlds leaned way too hard into the comedy, to the point where the story started undermining itself.
Like, no offense, but I just want to say you're a fucking fat fucking douchebag movie motherfucker. I wouldn't fucking put my cock anywhere near you.
This time, however, Obsidian actually nails the balance. They preserve the humor and satire without turning the story into a parody of itself. If there's one negative with the narrative, is that it drags until the second half finally kicks in. Unfortunately, The Outer Worlds 2 is one of those Starfield type games where it takes 15 to 20 hours before the game stops being a fucking sleeping aid. But at least the side quests, companion missions, and gameplay keep things interesting until then. The choices you make in these side quests don't just give decent rewards, some of them actually have massive repercussions on your main quest lines, which give you a real reason to do them. Speaking of the gameplay, this is another one of the game's strong suits. Combat is way smoother now. You can slide, vault, double jump, and more, instead of awkwardly strafing in one direction, stopping, and clicking the right trigger until you or the other guy drops dead. The world feels more dynamic and alive than most games in the genre, reacting to your choices in genuinely cool ways, from unlocking new dialogue options to completely closing off entire quest lines. But what really made me smile was the skill system. This game ditches the watered-down progression of the first Outer Worlds and goes full classic RPG. You got a ton of stats and perks to choose from, but barely enough points to go around, which forces you to specialize instead of doing a jack-of-all-trades build. Adding in systems like flaws that allows you to trade buffs for debuffs, what you get is a paradise for players who love experimentation and creative builds. You can spend hours deciding where to put your skill points and what perks to get, until you eventually just default back to a high speech build for the 1000th time in these types of games. I suppose my biggest complaint with The Outer Worlds 2 is the ending. It devolves into a very standard, very safe, save the world finale with only minor differences. You're introduced to all these cool factions, given all these choices that's supposed to decide their fate and relationship with one another, but none of it actually matters in the main ending itself. No matter what you do, the galaxy gets saved. Sure, your decisions do shape what happens to the universe after it is saved, but separating those outcomes from the main stories really hurt the stakes for me. In games like New Vegas, the story grabs you because your faction choices actually matter. Who you side with doesn't just affect the Mojave and all the idiots living in that godforsaken wasteland, it directly changes your late game quests and the way the story wraps up. By the end, you need to decide who runs Hoover Dam. Do you choose the guys who make you pay taxes for absolutely nothing? The guy who thinks women's rights are a mistake and wants to bring back slavery? You who will 100% plunge New Vegas back into the Stone Age because you have zero idea how to govern? Or the funny TV man who wants to fill the strip with his army of funny TV robots? That kind of dynamic is missing here, and it's a shame because it's the one thing that could have made this game go from a pretty good sequel to a decent Game of the Year contender. Speaking of which, the factions in The Outer Worlds 2 are also weaker compared to other games in the genre. The series' parody and exaggerated tone makes its voice unique, sure, but that same tone also comes at the cost of death. The game is so busy trying to get a laugh at you that it forgets to flesh out its own world sometimes. It's not like New Vegas, last comparison I swear, where every faction gets a full ideological breakdown. You don't just learn who they are or where they stand politically, you also understand why they became that way, why their leaders think the way they do, and the principles that define their identity. Meanwhile, The Outer Worlds 2 is out here like, capitalism bad. These guys work 20-hour shifts and literally shit their pants because they don't have time for a bathroom break. But overall, I still recommend this game. Despite being a stacked genre and having to compete with some of the greatest games ever made, The Outer Worlds managed to carve out its own identity by just being a fun, goofy, straightforward time. If you're looking for deep RPG mechanics that reward creativity and freedom in how you play, and you don't mind a more straightforward story, this one's worth checking out. I give The Outer Worlds 2 a 3.5 out of 5 with a Cappy's Choice Award. It has improved on nearly every aspect in the first game, and it is far more memorable, mostly because unlike the first game, it can't be confused with The Outer Wilds. Unless, of course, the Outer Wilds 2, baby.
She's just the best choice. It's Auntie's choice. You've let yourself slide.